Usually what companies bring in AI, and we're going to just automate a bunch of stuff without really looking at what should we automate? What should we add AI? When does a human need to be in the loop? And do we really need to redesign and re-architect how we think about operations?
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Anika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I hope everybody is watching this episode, not just listening to it, because Anthony Franco is not only animated himself, but has an amazing animation behind him for our show. Anthony, I am so excited to jump into this conversation with you. You're a serial entrepreneur. You're an AI strategist who has a really cool open source project that we'll be talking about. You're also the co-author of AI First Principles and the Wiser Method. You've exited 6 companies.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just bow down to you.
No. That sounds cooler than it actually is.
And you also have a podcast called How to Founder. So
yes.
lots for us to pack into our time together today. We will definitely continue this on future episodes and on my other podcasts. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just let's start at the beginning, and take a little bit of your journey with you, and then let's get into the meat because there's so much stuff to talk about with you.
Yeah. So I barely graduated high school. I was the computer nerd that was in the computer lab all the time and let the rest of my grades drop off, and always felt guilty about it. So I spent $400 and got one of the fake MBAs. So I have an MBA on my LinkedIn profile, but I spent $400 on it. I didn't even get it.
Oh my gosh.
But I talk about that on the show, on my podcast, just kind of make fun of myself and poke fun at myself on that. But yeah, so I started in lithography, actually was my initial career, where I took my computer skills and brought it into print production and worked for on some big advertising campaigns as a service provider to big ad agencies. And then was recruited by a friend into Warner Brothers to work on feature post as they were making their digital transformation from film to hard drives. And that was very glamorous on the surface, but underneath most of my job was just walking hard drives back and forth from editing to the stage. So it was not as glamorous in the real world. And then I was a terrible employee. I was an awful employee. And always had a side hustle. And that's one of the side hustles turned into like a full-time consulting gig with a couple of buddies of mine. And we grew a little consulting firm. And that was my first exit. We sold it to an incubator here in Colorado called Fast Ideas, started by, among others, the founder of Blue Mountain Art, one of the founders of Blue Mountain Arts. So anybody that remembers that time knows that Blue Mountain Arts sold for $1 billion to AOL. And so, yeah, they started an incubator and hired our team to help bring technology to their teams. And then, a lot of companies I started in tech, services company, a marketing company, a couple of SaaS companies, and exited my last business that wasn't that successful. And now I'm kind of wandering around life trying to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. I think we all have these experiences. And I see many people have had successful exits. You can't sit still, right? You have to do something. And like yourself, I've seen people who have written books or are speaking and want to give back in different ways to help other people learn some of the strategies, learn some of the core soft skills perhaps that you need. And you've kind of turned this into you have companies, but you're also doing some really great things to help humanize the AI experience. I'm a very big believer in AI first, human centered. And so I'd love for you to talk about what all of that moving, shaking, exiting successfully, maybe not as successfully as the last one, has brought you to today, and why you have found this bigger purpose.
Yeah. So I'm a nerd at heart. Like, I love technology, and, just like everybody else, when ChatGPT was launched, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing, thing ever. And let me take a step back. So the last large exit that I had about a decade ago, me and my co-founder were required not to work together for 5 years by the acquiring company. And so I went off to do some advanced manufacturing. I wanted to dive into manufacturing and physical products. And he went into build a conversational platform. And my advanced manufacturing, it turns out I didn't have enough capital to do that right. Oh. It was a very difficult company to scale with it takes hundreds of millions of dollars to scale manufacturing. I didn't have anything close to that. And he went off and started this conversational platform called OneReach. And as I started exiting my last company, I was using AI a lot, but his company really got into AI. And it's actually now the number one agentic platform on the planet for enterprise companies. And when I was transitioning, I started to look at what he did, and he said, "Hey, can you come and help me with some go-to-market stuff?" And so I started looking at how they delivered, and they had a lot of battle scars, a lot of companies integrating AI incorrectly and integrating it poorly. And not necessarily their customers, but customers that they were talking to that went off and did it on their own and just really failed. And I started to look and ask his team, why are you implementing things better than anybody else? And it turned out because they pushed back on something very simple. They pushed back on, they wouldn't let their customers automate bad processes. Okay. Which is usually what happens. Usually what companies bring in AI, and we're going to just automate a bunch of stuff without really looking at what should we automate? What should we add AI? When does a human need to be in the loop? And do we really need to redesign and re-architect how we think about operations? And the way OneReach did it was really fascinating. And I told him, I said, I want to talk to your team and I want to talk to other people in AI and develop a best practice around operationalizing AI. And that's really how AI First Principles was born. You said I co-authored it. Actually, I'm more of a journalist. I've been talking to a lot of AI folks and putting together their ideas into one document. Oh. And that's really what AI First Principles is. It's just AIFirstPrinciples.org. It's open source. There's all kinds of ways to engage with it just by reading it, or there's a prompt, or there's actually a GPT that you can engage with on that website. And it's just a way to think about how do we, as an organization, bring in AI in a safe, responsible, and way that actually is not going to destroy the company.
Yeah. And that can mean so many different things. Going through the AI coursework where we were looking at business principles, business practices, and how to integrate effectively into our companies, many of my peers for my MBA program do work for large companies. And so for them, it could be simple as looking at, wow, we'd save so much time with our presentations if we moved to AI presentations and cut back. But then we need to think about, is it really the information? Is it accurate? Or the chart? Then you have to think through those processes. And to me, that was fascinating because I'm like, I do almost all of my presentations in Gamma or Beautiful or Presentations AI. And I didn't even think that was something that could be big cost savings and time savings for a large company. Other companies, it's more complex, right? So everybody has
a lot more complex.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And that's something that for my podcast production business, I'm looking at actually right now. I'm building out different agentic tools and forms and workflows and working with my team to decide how much do I own, how much am I having them own, and then how much am I utilizing all of these wonderful tools that I have access to help streamline some of the processes for us. So I'm not an enterprise, I'm a very small business, but I think there is such a big implication for small businesses, and they're the ones who are also, they don't have the teams and the financial capacity necessarily to invest, but they need to invest probably faster and more agile than the enterprises.
Well, I mean, they have a disadvantage when it comes to resources, but they have an advantage that large companies don't have, and that is that they're way more connected to the problems of their business than enterprises are. That is the requirement. That was one of the requirements in AI First Principles is you need to feel the customer's pain or your employee's pain before you automate anything. And it's funny. It's going back to those design thinking principles that have been around for a decade, that may have fallen out of favor for a little bit, but now is like dead center in the AI practice. I mean, look at what Sam Altman bought Johnny Ive's firm because design is at the center of AI implementation.
You know, as a business owner myself, I can tell you that finding the right people to hire is absolutely brutal. You post a job, get flooded with hundreds of resumes, but somehow still can't find anyone with the actual skills you need. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. Here's what makes ZipRecruiter different. Their smart technology actually identifies the top talent for your specific roles super quickly. The moment you post your job, their matching system starts showing you qualified candidates immediately. Plus, you can reach out to your favorite candidates right away using their pre-written invite to apply messages. No more waiting around, hoping someone will notice your post. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/work. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Yeah, absolutely. So can you talk about some of the more complex use cases you've seen?
Yeah, I can talk about them at an anonymous level, right?
Yeah.
What usually happens is it tackles bureaucracy. So when done correctly, what you're doing is you're fighting bureaucracy within an organization. Look at things like large organizations in your hiring process and how many times does a person need to go and talk to somebody in the approval process, and automating the hiring process has been a use case that I've seen quite a bit. Automating with AI your voice system. And as silly as that might seem, so everybody's called those companies, press 1 to do this, press 2 to do that. Have you ever interacted with a company that has a really good AI behind it? It is a wonderful experience.
Nice.
It's the opposite of being frustrated and talking to a computer. It is like, oh, thank goodness. And I've seen companies do this where they have essentially one, quote, operator that is voice and text and web chat. It's all the same agent. That is a very complex process to build that in. There's no point solution out there that does it because you have to tie into all of your company systems and FAQs. In financial services, I see quite a bit of like regulatory compliance things that are being automated. In that circumstance, it gets really complex because you do need a human in the loop. And you do need to verify and make sure that no hallucinations are happening. And so you have very rigid rules that need to be followed with AI helping and AI giving you probabilities instead of probabilistic instead of deterministic outcomes. Like this is 90% right versus it's right or wrong, or it's 60% right. Like you're going to behave differently if something's 60% sure it's right versus 90% sure. Yeah. So integrating those kinds of things, and then also valuing one thing that everybody talks about that is completely wrong is I call it the complexity paradox. It's you always want to, everybody talks about removing complexity, but sometimes there's necessary complexity. Sometimes there's complexity that gives you a competitive disadvantage or competitive advantage. And then there's the unnecessary stuff that is just bureaucratic waste that you can delete, but you have to understand why everything exists before you start deleting stuff. So you can't delete all complexity because you don't have an edge over your competitors anymore.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, I want to go back to your companies that you exited because you're self-admitted computer nerd. You just want to live in that world. How the heck did you take companies to growth, marketing, sales, advertising, all of the different things that we think about that go into businesses and operations, and getting a product to the point where somebody wants to acquire your company?
Yeah, I had to this is something that we talk about a lot on my podcast. For all entrepreneurs, I had to get good at sales. You have to be willing to get out of the computer screen and get out of the product area and get out of the thing that what your comfort zone is. That's making good stuff and writing clean code and trying to understand the psychology of being able to translate what you do into a problem that your customers need solved and connecting the dots in customers' heads. That's a skill that every entrepreneur needs to have. And I treated it like a craft. I read a lot of books. I treated it like a craft. I said a lot of stupid things in front of customers and learned what not to say, made a lot of mistakes. And thankfully, none of those were company ending. And also, I started every business but one with a partner or partners, and just having that I got lucky on that. Like, I got really lucky on the right partners and the right folks that balanced each other. So I would say at a high, like I could talk for hours just on that, but at a high level, those are the two things that I did that I think gave me a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Because I also see that, of course, that's what you're putting into what you're doing now. And particularly, I want to talk now about the podcast a little bit, because obviously it's How to Founder. And you've mentioned a couple times that these are things that you talk about on the podcast. So what was the impetus behind starting the podcast? Was it so that you could share this knowledge with other people on what you've gone through, what you've learned?
Yeah, it's cathartic. So it's me, and I brought in Chris Franks as a co-host and Stephanie Hayes as a co-host. And initially I came to Chris, and I are really involved in the startup community here in Colorado. And Chris runs this thing called Denver Founders. It's 12,000 entrepreneurs strong that go to actual physical meetups. Nice. And I came to Chris and I said, I want to write an entrepreneurial book, but I don't want to write a book. So I was thinking about, and what I think is missing is what I call the entrepreneurial handbook. It's like all the crazy issues that entrepreneurs run into, most of them are the first time they run into it. And there's no book to say, how do I deal with this? You have to call up other entrepreneurs and hope that you find somebody that's run into this certain thing. And so I was like, I just want like a reference manual, a guide that I can flip to a chapter and says, what do I do when this thing happens in my business? And I said, so I don't want to write the book. So let's just have a podcast where we just talk about one subject at a deep level, so entrepreneurs have a way to navigate when they run into this thing, like either problems or opportunities. Like, how do I land my first B2B sale? How do I land my first sale in general? How do I set my mission, vision, and values? And is that important? Do I need a business plan? What do I do when this happens with an employee? How do I hire my first? What do I do when I have an A player that sucks as a person, right? Like all of those things, we just dive deep on one subject. And we're 130 episodes in. We go 2-3 times a week, and we have a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot. So there's certain circumstances where I get to weigh in, and certain circumstances where, like, I have no idea. You keep going.
Yeah. And that is then something you can turn into a book.
Eventually, yes. Yeah. We may be able to just turn it into turn all those episodes into chapters in a book.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. I think that's one of the best strategies that exists today with podcasting, the opportunity to meet a lot of people, to talk about a lot of ideas, and then have a lot of great content that's already semi-formed that you just have to add little bits and pieces to, perhaps, if you're writing a book.
Yeah, I'm writing there's a blog post from every episode, and I do output the transcripts into a chapter summary that would maybe one day go into a book. Yeah.
Nice. And what is the Wiser method?
So the Wiser method, so AI First Principles is open source, and I always imagine it, and the contributors always imagine that there will be companies that just adopt the principles and run with them as like a governance document. There's also, we imagine, just like Agile, there's going to be training methodologies that come out of it, different training companies that come out and train. And the Wiser method is essentially, so if AI First Principles is the philosophy, the manifesto, if you will. Mm-hmm. Wiser is something that I will probably develop some training around. It's the process by which you implement AI First Principles. Wiser is likely to be a commercial effort where AI First Principles is free for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And the work that you're doing with First Strategy is all around the Wiser method, helping these companies. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So First Strategy is a consulting firm. Like, it's a small group of AI consultants. I promise. So I'm not trying to sell anything. So I told you I wasn't going to promote any of this. But yeah, I do a little bit of consulting for larger companies on AI First Principles.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. What are some of the mindset shifts that you see that we need? Because for me, I was on the Intuit Small Business Council, and During the pandemic, it was, companies need to be online, digitized now, when most small businesses, especially moms and pops and small stores, they weren't really online. Maybe they had a landing page. It wasn't probably well designed, couldn't serve customers, right? Because most of their business would be foot traffic. So we realized that, gosh, these companies that we hadn't planned to be online for another 7 years or really getting up to speed have to be on now. And then, of course, if that had been a 7-year trajectory from, say, late 2019, obviously Gen AI came up. So then we would have been like even scrambling. And so we did scramble, right? And we are still scrambling with, okay, most of these companies now have digitization, but now how do we make sure that they are moving into the AI world when there's so much, for most of the people who are not living in this world and entrenched in it, right? There's still a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of fear. They see the bad news about it and not necessarily they don't necessarily have the optimism that maybe you or I could have.
Yeah. How does Elon say it? There's a greater than 0 chance that AI will destroy humanity. But he says it's close to 0, but it's greater than 0. It's not 0. So I think the hype is overblown about the negative parts of it, but it's good to be concerned about it. It's good to be concerned about AI safety for sure. But, enterprises are adopting it, but they're failing at it. I think I just read an MIT study that 95% of AI adoptions in enterprises are failing. It's a pretty surprising stat. Yeah. So if you're not being successful in it, it's okay. You're in good company. And so, what does that mean for small business? I think every small business entrepreneur that I talk to, they're talking about how they're leveraging AI. And some of us is just, they have a $20 subscription to ChatGPT and it's helping them write emails, which that counts. I kind of joke, when somebody says they're in AI, what does that mean? Are they working for OpenAI or Meta, or are they working for NVIDIA making the next digital chip, or are they just in ChatGPT 3 times a day? All of those count, but one of the gaps that I saw was nobody's talking about this. How do we integrate AI into our entire infrastructure? How do we integrate AI instead of just bolting on AI or buying a tool that has AI in it? Like if you're on Salesforce, your company is an AI because Salesforce has AI built into the tool. But that's not really integrating AI into the way your business operates. And that's really what getting back to AI first principles, that's really what they're for. They're for that, agent ops. It's operationalizing AI within your operations.
Yeah. Yeah. So people need to make that shift from, this is a fun tool, I'm playing with ChatGPT, maybe I'm making some images, maybe I'm testing out a little bit of video, to
writing marketing copy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The great news is that it's easy to do that. The bad news is that it's easy to do that because now it's really, if you're writing bad marketing copy as a human, like you're in the minority, where that used to be the majority. Like most of marketing copy was awful. And now most marketing copy is really good because AI was trained on it. Mm-hmm. So because it's so easy to write good copy and have a good strategy, there's a lot more noise, and it makes it a lot more difficult to rise above that noise.
Yeah, 100%. I often say, yeah, this is great, but these are like the kind of lowest hanging fruit use cases. There's so much more you can be doing. And that I think is
exactly right.
What you're saying. So
exactly right.
Yeah. Like I can have Fixer AI write drafts and go back and completely change them. But, that is a better use case for me of writing emails than having to go into Claude. I use Claude mostly instead of chat, but going into whatever your favorite LLM is to write emails or write copy. And these integrations you're talking about are the things that will actually change your company for better, streamline operations, help you out with some hopefully cost savings, help you see areas of improvement, and sales and marketing strategies that you should be using.
Yeah. If you're not using AI for that, you're definitely going to be pummeled by people that are using AI for that. Yeah. What's the meme? Have you seen the meme where there's somebody sitting in front of a computer writing an email and they're like, look, I just took 3 bullet points and I wrote this really intricate email. And then the receiver of that email said, look, I just took this really long email and crafted it right into 3 bullet points. It's like,
yeah,
that's what most people are using AI for now. Imagine when it actually is able to be agentic, when it can actually do things.
Yes.
Be really exciting.
So
and we're there now.
Yeah. I'm so excited about that. That to me is the huge game changer, not just for business, but also for personal lives. The idea of being able to say, here's what I need to do, get this all scheduled, put this into a better schedule for me, knowing all of my quirks and all the things I'm doing, and make sure you schedule these bills, pay for this plane ticket, all of the different things so that I can do more, honestly, of playing with AI tools and reading. And
I was talking to Rob, the CEO of OneReach, actually the other day, and he gave me this really interesting perspective that I hadn't thought of. I'll share it with you. Right now, companies are thinking about how to automate their operations in order to reduce costs or increase velocity. What's not being contemplated, and where I think there's going to be this huge, where he thinks there's going to be this huge AI explosion, is companies playing defense against consumer AI. So because you can negotiate a better deal with a company using AI, like those tools exist now, because you can use every single coupon, because you can have an AI call a company.
Yep.
There's a tsunami of consumer AI that's going to be coming at companies, which means if you're even a mid-sized company, you're going to need to handle that urgently and correctly. And what I'm worried about is the tsunami is going to come faster than companies are ready for, and they're going to implement AI solutions that are just going to be awful. So getting this right now is really, really critical, and a great opportunity for consultants getting into AI.
Yeah. So I was just at the AI4 conference, and Fei-Fei Li spoke, Jeffrey Hinton spoke, and Fei-Fei Li said something really interesting about how AI is going to let us live in multiple worlds at the same time. And what she meant by that is, say you're a mom who's also a surgeon. You go into surgery, you have, special glasses that really help you see more intricately inside a human to really pinpoint what you need to do versus, not that, of course, surgeons are highly skilled already, but to even be even more precise. Then you get through surgery, you're going home, your car is driven by, it's a robot, right? It's self-driving. It's going to take you home, but you need to get groceries, you need to get a dress for your daughter's school performance. You immediately can go into these virtual worlds while you're sitting in the back of the car, pick out your groceries, have them delivered to your house, pick out, you go into a store, you have a model of yourself, you have a model of your daughter already in that store because it's one that you frequent a lot. So you can, again, switch the glasses and be living in that world, and then say, okay, I sat out for her, and I'll take 2 of these for me. We'll be able to do a lot more like that. You go on vacation or you go to the movies, you can have a richer experience because you can enhance it with AI. So the way that she was talking about it was really such a life enhancement. And I do think that's a world that I see. I mean, it exists in many areas. It's not, everything already exists. I feel like it just isn't being put out to the public yet.
It's just not matched. I think, what's the phrase? Everything has been invented. It's just not widely distributed.
Yeah.
I don't know who said that, but that's exactly where we're at right now with AI. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's just not everybody has access to it yet.
So companies need to be well positioned to understand how they personalize messages to people, how they personalize responses, because of all these consumer-facing AI tools that are going to be negotiating, asking for better prices, better deals, that reservation spot that they know is secretly being held, that nobody's taken, whatever the case may be. And they also need to be thinking about this virtual ecosystem where people can go into different worlds and make purchasing decisions, and it's not necessarily run by Google or Apple or Amazon, right? So there's a lot here. And I think you're really sitting at the crux of this and looking at, how do we help people operationalize now? But then what does that future look like?
What does it look like?
Yeah.
I'm not a futurist. I'm like I said, I'm more of a journalist. I get to talk to really smart people and then try to translate it into words that make sense for most of us.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the same. So
yeah.
I get to talk to really amazing people and learn from them every day, and then take that back to my students or to my audience or to my LinkedIn newsletter, whatever the case may be. So
yeah.
What are some other things that you see changing in business? Because obviously I don't know many people who can say they've had successful exits from this many companies. There has to be something unique to the way that you do business and the perspective that you bring to business.
So the successful businesses that I've had, so I've started 7, exited 6. The outlier, the one that didn't work, I swung for the fences. So instead of incrementally, like I swung for the fences and I raised capital. All the other ones were bootstrapped, which required a certain discipline on growth. But, they weren't huge. They weren't life-changing billionaire wins, right? They were incrementally grown, and incremental successes one over the other. And so I guess the thing I'm going to say, so what is the fundamental things that I see successful founders do that others don't? One, it's going back to what I said earlier, go sell stuff. 2, my favorite Y Combinator trope that I've heard a lot is do things that don't scale. So a lot of founders will try to scale something before they know whether or not it works. So like sales is a great example, like go land one customer rather than trying to figure out how to land 1,000. It'd be easier. And then I think relentless curiosity is another thing that I see from other founders. It's always trying to figure out what they're doing wrong rather than getting validation for what they're doing right.
Nice.
Those 3 combinations, if you have those, you have an advantage over most entrepreneurs.
Okay. It's a lot for us to digest. And I love the fact that you were so intentional and took your time with sharing those. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So what is next for you, Anthony? You're doing so much. You're putting good into the world. You're helping companies figure out how to operationalize and live in this world. You're creating systems, processes, podcasting.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So the next thing for me is I'm going to just be working really hard on AI first principles and Wiser and evangelizing, operationalizing AI in a safe and sane and capitalistic way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Where do you want the audience to go?
Oh, so either howtofounder.com is my podcast, and they can follow on YouTube and Spotify, or aifirstprinciples.org, and just sign up to be a contributor or a sponsor there. That would be great.
Okay, fantastic. I know I could just keep pulling things out of you, but I think this is a great taste. And I want to bring you back on when you've figured out what you want to do.
Okay.
I think because
that might be a while.
I'm the friend in my high school friend group who's always like, here's what I'm doing now. And everybody's like, I have no idea what that means, but I'm glad that you're happy because it's always changing. And I do feel like, my world is AI, education, pedagogy, and podcasting. But there are other things that are probably going to be offshoots of that. So yeah. I think you have kind of the center of your world for now, but I'm looking forward to seeing what else you discover along the way.
Me too.
Fantastic. And I always ask for a favorite quote, mantra, family poem, verse, motto.
Oh, the thing I live by, success and comfort are not compatible.
Ooh. Okay. It's definitely one to chew on.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. I'll be back with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, and some helpful hints to inspire you in your journey. Until then, have a great day. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.